Hey guys, welcome to LifeGroups. This season in LifeGroups, we're going to be having conversations about our decisions, the decisions we make every day, large and small, in personal and professional contexts that impact the quality of our lives. What we know is that the quality of our decision making impacts the quality and the direction of our lives, and not just our own lives, but the lives of others. And we're going to be talking about a couple different frameworks for decision making that are kind of across the board. And one of them is this: good questions set us up for good decisions. And the other is that we need good people, a good community of people to ask good questions with, so that we end up making better decisions with fewer regrets. The first question that we're going to look at is simply this: am I being honest with myself, really? Am I being honest with myself? Let's take a simple example, a simple decision that I'm confronted with on a regular basis, and maybe you are as well. And that is with dessert. It's the end of a day, end of maybe a good meal, and you kind of talk yourself into getting just a little bit of chocolate or ice cream or whatever your dessert of choice might be. And if you're like me, sometimes what you'll do is you'll say something to yourself, something like this: I'm going to work out tomorrow, and so today I'm just going to have a little bit of chocolate. Or maybe you'll say something like, I've had a really hard day. I deserve a little bit of dessert today. And that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense if you want to try to avoid the sweets, if you want to avoid making decisions that you'll regret at the end of the day or the end of a meal. But we do that on a regular basis. We talk ourselves into things. We sell ourselves on decisions that lead to regrets. Now, dessert is a small thing, but you and I both know that there are big decisions that impact our lives and our future, where we do the same kind of thing. And I just want to give three categories of decisions that often lead to regret. The first one is purchases. The second one is relationships. And the third one is with habits. I don't know about you, but I've made some really dumb purchases in my life. I've had some doomed relationships, and I've engaged in some destructive habits. And I bet you have as well. So speaking of purchases, I'll give you a couple examples from my life. One time I was with my friends in New Orleans, and we were there for a jazz festival, and we saw a number of street vendors, and there was one particular guy who had three cups that were side by side on a flat table. You probably have seen this as well. And there was a small ping pong ball under one of the cups, and he would rotate the cups, and he drew a crowd at his ability to deceive whoever his customer might be. If you were able to guess the ping pong ball in the cup, you would be able to not only offer your money, but double your money. And so I watched. This guy knew that he was drawing me in, I'm sure. But after 5 or 10 minutes of watching all these other folks be unable to solve the puzzle, I put down my $20 and gave it a go myself. And sure enough, after he moved all of the cups around, I pointed to the cup that I thought the ping pong ball was under, and it was not under that ping pong ball. He had taken my money and taken my pride, and I immediately regretted that decision. Here's another dumb purchase in my life. I was going to buy my first vehicle with my own money. I had saved money through college, working in various contexts, and I went to buy a used car. And the car that I was looking for was not there that day, but the salesman had a vehicle that he wanted to sell. It was a used red Saturn Vue, and in hindsight, it was terrible. But I needed a vehicle, and I came to the lot that day to make a purchase. And by the end of that engagement, I had purchased a red Saturn Vue. The price was right, but for years I hated that vehicle and I regretted that dumb purchase. For some people, it's purchases. For other people, it's relationships. I had this relationship in college that was really good for a number of years, but then I started to see signs. Now, in hindsight, I could see the signs. In the midst of it, I kept telling myself that things were going well, that it was good that we were staying together. But over the course of time, I was selling myself. I was deceiving myself and convincing myself that we should stay together. At a certain point, she broke up with me, and it was a doomed relationship from the beginning. A third dimension where we do this, where we fail to ask that question, am I being honest with myself? It's not just in purchases and relationships. Sometimes it can be with our habits. What are habits? Habits are simply small decisions that we repeat over the course of time. And maybe you remember the first time that you did whatever it is that you can't stop doing now. Small decisions can actually be pathways, and small decisions can be pathways, and pathways can lead to destructive habits and even to addictions. And maybe you've been there as well. Well, if so, then you know what it's like to suffer from a basic dimension of the human condition. And that's what Jeremiah in the scriptures calls a deceitful heart. This is what he says. The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? What the scriptures know about us is that we deceive ourselves. In our attempts to get along in life, we end up being dishonest with ourselves. We sell ourselves a future that's not in our best interest, and we end up regretting our decisions. And Jeremiah says that there's no cure. There may not be a cure for that, but there is hope. And our hope lies in doing a few simple things. The first is admitting our reality to ourselves. The sooner you embrace this uncomfortable dimension of your life, the sooner you can acknowledge what's really going on. The second thing that you can do is you can ask yourself, am I being honest with myself, really? I'm not talking about being honest with other people here. I'm talking about being honest with yourself, not selling yourself on a version of the future or the version of a decision that you might end up regretting later. Am I really telling myself the truth in the situation about what's really going on? Our friends in the AA community will say that rigorous honesty is the beginning of a journey into recovery. And the third thing is to be curious. Brene Brown, who sounds a little bit like the prophet Jeremiah in this particular quotation. She says this: our rational grown-up selves are good liars. And so what are we to do? We're to be curious, to be emotionally curious, and to pay attention to what's going on in our heart and in our mind, and simply to do the hard work of being honest with ourselves. Jesus said the truth will set you free. The opposite is also true. Not telling the truth, being dishonest with yourself, can lead to feeling imprisoned. But the truth will set you free. And it's sometimes good to ask these kinds of good questions that will set you up for better decisions, to do that in community with one another. And so I invite you to engage in a conversation, to talk about some of the places where you may have made bad purchases, or you've been in doomed relationships, or maybe you've engaged in some bad habits, and begin the process of admitting and being honest with yourself, being emotionally curious about what leads you in that direction so that you can make better decisions with fewer regrets.